This week on the Daily Dose, we're going to keep it simple. Pastor Hans and I are going to be reading to you different stories from the Bible that talk about Jesus' birth. Jesus' birth is really only mentioned in 2 books of the Bible, in Matthew and in Luke. And John comes at it from a different direction, and we'll talk about that later in the week. But the book of Mark, it doesn't start off with Jesus' birth. In the book of Mark, it starts off with Jesus' baptism when Jesus is an adult. Today, I want to talk to you about the book of Matthew. The author Matthew writes for is specifically the Jewish people. His target audience are his people. His people are the Jews. And Matthew, he is specifically trying to make a case for the Jewish people to believe that Jesus was who he said he was. He wants to make a case that Jesus is the Messiah. So when you read the book of Matthew, you'll start to hear stories about how Jesus fulfills all the promises of the Old Testament. And Matthew, the book of Matthew, was probably written around year 80. And on top of that, Matthew references the book of Mark often in his own writing. But because of writing to this Jewish audience, it's important for Matthew to start with the genealogy of Jesus the Messiah. So the book, it starts like this. It says, "This is the genealogy of Jesus the Messiah, the son of David, the son of Abraham. Abraham was the father of Isaac, and Isaac the father of Jacob, and Jacob the father of Judah and his brothers." Now, I won't bore you, but it continues to go on like this through the genealogy for another 14 verses. But what's really super cool about this is that if you want to know more about any of those people in Jesus' genealogy, you can read about them in the Old Testament, in the earlier written parts of the Bible. And this family of Jesus, it includes scandalous people. It's not as holy as you might think. It includes prostitutes and foreigners and philanderers and murderers. It includes people that doubted God and people who were faithful to God. Basically, it looks kind of like your family tree and my family tree, people from all walks of life. And then finally, in verse 16, it continues. It says, "And then Jacob was the father of Joseph and the husband of Mary, and Mary was the mother of Jesus, who is called the Messiah. There were 14 generations in all from Abraham to David, and 14 from David to the exile in Babylon, and 14 from the exile to the Messiah." This is how the birth of Jesus, the Messiah, came about. His mother Mary was pledged to Joseph, but before they came together, she was found to be pregnant through the Holy Spirit. But because Joseph was her husband and faithful to the law, he did not want to expose her to public disgrace. He had in mind to divorce her quietly. But after he considered this, an angel of the Lord appeared to him in a dream and said, "Joseph, son of David, do not be afraid to take Mary home as your wife, because what is conceived in her is from the Holy Spirit. And she will give birth to a son, and you are to name him Jesus, because he will save all the people from their sins." And all this took place to fulfill what the Lord had said through the prophet. "The virgin will conceive and give birth to a son, and they will call him Emmanuel," which means God with us. When Joseph woke up, he did what the angel of the Lord had commanded him, and he took Mary home as his wife. But he did not consummate his marriage until she gave birth to a son, and they gave him the name Jesus. And this is what we remember at Christmas time. We remember that God comes down here to meet us in this world full of sin and suffering and death. God shows up in weakness in a baby so that God can share all of who God is with us. So if you know someone who needs to hear the Christmas message today, would you do me a favor and go ahead and share this with them? I also want to invite you to come and check out our Christmas with Calvary website for ways to celebrate later this week at www.christmaswithcalvary.com. There's all kinds of good things on there, ways to worship, ways to sing, and ways to give. So go check it out. Thanks for joining us.
bells we have heard are nigh, sweetly singing o'er the plains, and the mountains in reply, echoing their joyous strains. Hey! Gloria in excelsis Deo. Gloria in excelsis Deo. Come to Bethlehem and see him whose birth the angels sing. Come